All right, Ravens-Bills, obviously an absolute thriller here. The Bills come out on top. They get to see the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Josh Allen, kind of a strange game. A safe game for Josh Allen, 16-22, 127 yards. He rushed 10 times for just 20 yards. He did fall into the end zone twice, which is very important. We got to hear from Josh Allen after the game on the win over Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, and, of course, looking ahead.
Missed a couple throws. Wish I had him back. But, again, I got nothing but love for Lamar. He's one of the greatest to ever put a uniform on and play in the NFL. Honored to share the field with him.
Your reaction now that you're headed to the AFC Championship game?
That's what we've worked for, is an opportunity to play another week. We don't want our season to end on a loss, and this gives us an opportunity to keep going, but we'll enjoy this one. A lot to learn from this one. Obviously wasn't pretty, but these playoff games, man, you got to win by one. That's all that matters.
A lot of ball control for the Bills and Joe Brady's offense. And this is a team, Matthew, that took advantage of Baltimore's mistakes in both halves. Lamar's mistakes were in the first half. Mark Andrews highlighted the second half.
Right? I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about with, all the games. It sort of feels like that's playoff football, right? The Eagles won because of, the Rams had a couple of brutal turnovers. Commanders beat the Lions because of all of their turnovers. It's the turnover battle. The team generally, cliches are true. Cliches are cliches because they're true, and they've just been repeated over and over again. Like, teams that can run the ball, play good defense, and more importantly, win the turnover battle, win in the playoffs. And so that's going to be the key for the Chiefs and Bills, and it's going to be the key for the Commanders and Eagles. And so whichever team wins the playoff battle most likely wins the game.
Yep. It's kind of a strange game because it was a great game. It was an epic game full of spectacle and theater, but also feel like there's no real greater meaning to discern from it. Like, the Bills did what they needed to do, and on the Ravens side, like, Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, they have been the face of that offense for this era. Yeah. And Andrews had the worst game of his career.
Right.
And Lamar Jackson wasn't good for 3 quarters. And now, look, I think he gets a lot of credit back from how he was a 10 out of 10 on that final drive in the biggest moment. But he wasn't good until that point. And Allen didn't make those mistakes, and that's why they lost. Ravens have the better team. Like, I think they showed, that they are a better team than Buffalo. They have more talent. I think they have a better defense than Buffalo. I think their offense is just as good, if not better. And it's just that Lamar had 2 brainless turnovers, like really bad turnovers. And Mark Andrews had multiple drops, terrible fumble, and the 2-point drop at the end, just like that sank them. So that's the game. Their best players didn't play good enough.
Yeah, right. You want players to play well in the biggest moments, right? That's why they're superstars. And, we like Mark Andrews here, right? Friend of the podcast, friend of the show. And it's a shame because it's the Mark Andrews game, right? And it's just like, we'll see how the rest of his career turns out. But, like, I would think that maybe it's just because it's top of mind. Like, that's what people are going to take away. Like, 5 years from now, like, that'll be, unless something happens different, right? That's going to be the defining moment of his career, and that sucks.
Sure. How well do you think Lamar played yesterday?
Well, the turnovers are just, they're soul-crushing. Like, you look at the larger sample size, he had some really good drives, some big throws. Yeah, he did Lamar things on the ground, but that fumble, when you're spinning out of a sack that returns for 50 to 60 yards, like, that's the difference in the game right there. Like, that's a year 1 or year 2 quarterback mistake, not an MVP mistake.
It's the mistakes he was making in his first playoff game against the Chargers all those years ago. That game where he just kept on fumbling. And look, to me, in like the third quarter, he looked rattled. Like, he really looked rattled to me. He was missing throws. And then I thought it was incredibly impressive that he was able to absorb that performance and then deliver in that final drive and be basically perfect on the final drive. So that was impressive, but the mistakes in the first place got them in that position where they needed to convert the 2-point, and they didn't, and the season's over.
I'll say one thing to the point. Like, I don't think I entirely disagree that the Ravens are the better team as we think of, but I think this game highlights how underrated the Bills' offensive line is.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good unit, and because they have Josh Allen, who's amazing, because they create turnovers on defense, they get a lot of credit there. But the Bills' offensive line is really good, and that's a sustainable way to go further into the playoffs.
Yeah, and by the way, and this was like sort of, Joe Brady's offense, again, 16-22. Like, he attempted 22 passes, 127 passing yards. Like,
a lot of screens.
Which
is, they controlled the game in that way.
Right, super smart. And, like, we're going to run the ball, and we're going to play conservative, and, like, we're not going to ask Josh to put on his Superman cape and win. And, like, it was – right? And, no turnovers. That's something that has plagued Josh Allen throughout his career, is sort of like these, kind of, back-breaking turnovers, and that didn't happen. Like, he played mistake-free football, and he cashes in the 2 rushing touchdowns. Really would have liked James Cook desperately to get one of those. Somebody who had a lot of money on James Cook. But shout out to our friend Lawrence Jackson, who last week gave out, this was a player special on DraftKings, 5 rushing yards for Derrick Henry and James Cook in each quarter. And that cashed. So me and producer Damien both bet
Very
that, and we were
nice.
very happy. Very happy. There were a couple of close calls, but yes, that ended up cashing. So shout out to Lawrence. Great. We tailed
Plus
that.
money king.
Plus money king. Oh, it went off at plus 400. Oh, yeah. Yeah, good job, Lawrence.
Very
yeah,
good,
well
very
done.
good find from Lawrence.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right, our final game here, guys. The Texans
And
lose.
real quickly, I just want to mention really underrated game from Khalil Shakir.
I mean,
Yeah, he's rock solid.
the
He's been,
go-to.
he's just, 6 for 60 in both playoff games. He's just been rock solid for them.
While Mark Cooper's invisible, Shakir's been the go-to guy.
Shakir's been terrific.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.